Olá, the name is Axelu, and today I'll be talking about the development process of my second game on Steam, Soulslinger. Okay, so to start, I'll have to talk about another game called Soulful, the official predecessor of Soulslinger. The game that I made right before starting the development of Soulslinger. Okay, Soulful. What is Soulful? Soulful and Soulslinger are pretty much the same game. Soulful is a lot simpler and smaller and doesn't have a lot of content. Soulslinger is kind of a upgrade to Soulful in a way, like Soulslinger is Soulful but with more content and more enemies and stages and stuff. And a little bit different on the gameplay aspects as well, but it's pretty much the same thing, okay? Soulslinger is very inspired in Soulful. So, what is Soulful? Soulful is a game that I made for a game jam back in 2021, October 2021, right after I released Mario Moth on Steam. And this game, I had to make it in 3 days, since it was for a game jam. And this jam happened in 3 days, so I had to make an entire game in 3 days. And then I decided to go with Soulful. I already knew that later on I would like to make a bigger and better version of Soulful. So I already made everything thinking about it, right? Soulful actually was originally supposed to be named Soulslinger, but then I decided to go with another name since Soulslinger was too good for Soulful, and I decided that I really want to make a upgraded version, Soulslinger, and I saved that name for the Steam version, and for the Gem version I created a simple name, Soulful, in this case. Okay, so here's the introduction, okay, Netherlamp, my development team, which is pretty much myself at the moment. This is a game, both games, both Soulful and Soulslinger. My brother did not participate directly on the development, but he helped me a lot on testing the game, ideas, and some gameplay aspects. But the development itself, he did not participate. I made it pretty much all by myself, including the soundtrack and sound design, which you'll see that I definitely don't know what I'm doing in that aspect. Like, I'm not a composer, so yeah, the music of Soulslinger and both Soulful are not very good. But later on that, okay? Let's focus on Soulful right now. Okay, so here's the introduction, and here's the level, right? Okay, about the gameplay. What is these games? Soulful is a auto runner that it's endless, okay? Soulful is endless. You have your character, and this character starts running through a hallway, and in this hallway a lot of obstacles start spawning, and enemies as well, stuff like that, and you have to dodge them and destroy them. And the main objective of the game is to get as far as you can. So this is a arcade game, kind of. So yeah, let me show you a little bit. It's fairly simple, right? Oh yeah, it says touch to start, because I actually ported Soulful to mobile, but later I'll talk about that. Very soon actually, I'll just show you a little bit the gameplay first. Okay, so here you can see the high score. I already have a high score, but this is because I already tested the game. But yeah, let's start. Oh yeah, so this is the mobile version, so I have to click here, but originally you would use your keyboard. You see that hitting stuff with my sight actually creates and other non-living things, like I like to call them soulless things, will damage the site, damaging myself. You see, this is my health bar. But reaping souls, like enemy souls, actually heals myself. And the speed start increasing. And it keeps increasing pretty much forever. It has a limit, but it's very high. And there's a pumpkin that actually heals myself and allows me to become invincible for a moment. Okay, and when I fail, I can continue playing if I have 15 or more coins, right? But at the moment I only have 13, so I cannot continue. So yeah, back to the start. This is the mobile version, right? This is why I was playing with my mouse here. In the mobile version, I actually made a tiny tutorial, like teaching you how to play. Oh yeah, my avatar is in the way, sorry about that. But it's pretty simple, you just attack here and control here, like in this control panel here. And here's the achievements. I actually made achievements for this game. So whenever you collect 20 pumpkins or reap 500 enemies, you gain one of these achievements, right? And these are just for you to have a reason to play. Like, they don't mean anything, they're just little achievements that you can get playing the game, right? This game was actually on Play Store for a while. I actually ported it to mobile back in 2022, like at the second half of 2022. I don't remember the exact dates, but yeah. But I had to take it down since there were a lot of bugs regarding this game on mobile, and it was very hard to just make a stable version of the game. So I decided to just give up and not do it again. At least not with Soulful. Maybe someday I'll actually make another mobile game, but it's specifically for mobile. Porting games to mobile, I learned that it's not good. Like, it's kind of easy, to be honest. Not easy, but fast, quick. Like, it's a very quick process. But if you already have the entire game made, I think, like, just the controls and stuff like that for a simple game. Keep in mind that I'm talking about a game that I made in 3 days. So yeah, it's very simple. So that's why it was easy to port. But the main problem is making it work on a smartphone. So it was not easy, that step specifically. Like, it kept crashing, there were a lot of lag and other issues. And one very interesting thing is that if you played Soulful on a lower end smartphone, there would be a difference of the amount of objects that would spawn. Like, in the lower end smartphone, a lot more objects would spawn, and in a higher end or normal smartphone, it would just spawn less frequently. Which is kinda strange, but I know why this happens, right? And I pretty much know how I can fix it. But it's too much effort for Soulful itself, so I just decided to scrap the idea of releasing it on mobile and took it out of Play Store, right? But it was a fun little experience that I made, and I still have Soulful on my cell phone, so whenever I want to play it, I just play it a little bit. Okay, Soulful was made for a game jam, right? And it was very interesting to work on an entire game in only 3 days. It was actually the second game jam that I participated, so I'm very proud of myself for being able to make, even though it's a very simple and smaller game, but making an entire game in only 3 days. It was very rushed, but very interesting. And this game originated Soulslinger. It's not the same project though. I started Soulslinger from scratch, right? Here I'll show you the characters, right? Here's Alice Classic. This is the main character of Soulful. When I was making Soulful, I didn't have enough time to just think about names and stuff like that. But for Soulslinger, I decided that I want to make a little bit of world building, you know? And then I gave names to the characters. At least some of the characters, you'll see later. But this is Alice Classic, basically the player of Soulful, the main protagonist of Soulful. She's a Reaper girl, right? She's a Reaper, Soul Reaper. So she has a sight, and yeah, her job is to just reap souls in the underworld, something like that. And here it is, the main protagonist of Soulslinger, Alice, but not Classic, just normal Alice. This is supposed to be a grown-up version of Alice Classic. Like, Soulful was a prequel to Soulslinger in the lore, if there ever was one, to start with. Oh yeah, so her hair grew a little bit longer, you can see here, and get a little bit darker, actually. You see, this is the color of the classic hair, and this is the color of the normal hair. Her cloak changed a little bit as well. Her clothing in general became a little bit more complex. And yeah, this is the main protagonist of Soulslinger, right? Besides Marimoth, that the protagonist is not a human or human-like being, humanoid, it's actually a moth. All my other games that have human characters or human-like characters have the same model. This is the main model that I use to make my characters. So every game that I start with the characters, with the main protagonist, the player character, and I pretty much start with the same model, the same base. But the base is actually the main character of my previous game. So whenever I worked on Forest of Strays, I used a player, a character, from Soulslinger as a model, right? And improved that model. And when I start making my other games, like my future games, I'll probably use the Forest of Strays ones and improve them as well. So I'm constantly improving the player model, the character model that I use. But yeah, you can see a lot of similarities. If you ever played or saw the Steam version of Forest of Strays, you'll see that the characters are very similar. Their model is pretty much the same, and actually it took me years to reach this specific model, right? I tried a lot. I have tons of examples of different characters that I made that did not look so good, but I just took the pieces that were better constructed and made this character here, this model here. So yeah, this is why my characters are pretty much similar, are very similar to each other, because I use the same model for them. And this is a model that I made myself, actually, and improved over the years. Okay, so there's some smaller stuff that I wanted to talk about Soulful before heading to Soulslinger, right? First is that it was just 3 days, right, to make this game. So in the first day, I made the pretty much everything, the character, the enemies, and all of that stuff. The second day, I kinda quote unquote polished everything, right? Which is not very polished, but yeah, I tried with the time that I had. And in the third day, I spent the entire day just working on the music and the sound effects. This site's sound effect is actually the same sound as the cage breaking in Marimoth. If you watch the Marimoth video, or if you played Marimoth, and you remember the cages with the moth princesses that were trapped inside, that were caged, when you break them, they make a sound. I reused this sound for Soulful, for the site. Since my brother made that sound, he helped with Soulful a little, you know? Directly, or in this case, very indirectly. But yeah, I basically just stole the sound from Marimoth. But for Soulslinger, I made a new sound for the site, right? It's pretty much the same thing, but I remade it myself. Okay, now on to Soulslinger, right? Soulslinger is not on mobile. I actually had a plan to port Soulslinger to mobile, but with the experience that I had with Soulful, I decided that it's not worth it. As I said before, if I ever going to release anything again on mobile, I'll have to make it from scratch, right? This is the main menu of Soulslinger, right? Soulslinger has two main menus, actually. There is the options menu and everything, and there is the play menu, which you can change your character, equipped hat, or card, a lot of things. I'll show you very soon. Okay, so this is the main menu of Soulslinger, the first main menu, the title screen, as I should call it. And you can see that there's options here, and there is this music volume, sound volume, pretty simple. Background saturation, it's something that I added on the latest update. In the start of this year, I actually released a update for Soulslinger. So it was pretty much a whole year without any updates, and then I updated it with a few tiny things that I changed and some new content, including the background saturation. So you can now reduce the background saturation. I personally like 18. I think it's a very good value, because this was something that I noticed myself. The palette that I use for Soulslinger is actually very good. I like that palette. I used for Marimoth, for Soulslinger, Stone Souls, and even Forest of Strays. I changed it very recently. I started using another color palette, but I'll not talk about it in this video since it's content for another one, for my future projects. But the darker hues of that palette were very saturated, so whenever I made a background with one of those colors, it's actually very saturated, right? And it was literally hurting my eyes, so I had to make this option here, so if anyone had the same issue that I did, now have the option to lower it and be a little bit more comfortable to play the game. And I also, in this update, added the gameplay section here, so you can see the controls and everything. The controls were actually already in the game here, but the gameplay now lets you see a little bit of a tutorial to Soulslinger. Like Marimoth, Soulslinger controls cannot be rebinded, so you cannot keybind your keys. But in Forest of Strays that changes. Actually, in Forest of Strays I finally learned how to make it work, so From Forest of Strays to my future games, you'll be able to rebind your keys, but in Soulslinger and Mario Moth, you cannot. So these are the keys that you have to use to play Soulslinger. And this is the little tutorial that I added, just explaining like this is a enemy, this is a obstacle, and this is another obstacle. But there's a difference between these two obstacles, right? This one is breakable and this one is not, so you cannot destroy this obstacle in normal circumstances. The progression bar, and destroying obstacles and defeating enemies fills the progression bar. Once it's full, the stage will end. Okay, so your main objective in Soulslinger is actually increasing this bar until it reaches 100%, right? When it gets to 100%, a boss will spawn, and when you defeat the boss, you progress to the next level, or to the world map, that I'm going to show you a little bit later. And here I just explain a little bit of the other mechanics of the game, for example, the Soulvolver ammunition, the pies, and the blessings, right? I actually called them Soul Blaster, since Soulvolver was the original name on the previous version, because you only had one weapon that you could use, one gun that you could use. But now, in the latest update, I actually added 3 more guns that you can use, so I decided to call them Soul Blasters. Okay, so Soul Blaster ammo slowly regenerates over time, but ripping enemies recovers faster. Yeah, so you can use your gun 6 times, right? You have 6 shots. But if you wait a little bit or rip an enemy with your sight, you will actually recover that ammo, so you can use it again. Pies are temporary power-ups. Each pie grants you a special effect. So pies are very interesting, since when you have a pie, you can eat it for a very short amount of time, special effect. Remember the pumpkin from Soulful that I showed you earlier that recovers your health and grants you invincibility for a while? Pies are exactly the same thing, but with different effects. Actually, the pumpkin pie does the same thing as the pumpkin from Soulful, except it does not heal you. And blessings are permanent power-ups that can drastically change the gameplay during a run. Okay, so blessings are actually the main power-ups that you can get in Soulslinger. You have slot for 8 different blessings, right? So you can have 8 different blessings at once. Every time you defeat a boss, it will drop a blessing. And in the world map, you can actually buy blessings or just get them in shrines. So yeah, blessings are very important, and they pretty much change how you play the game a lot. They can change very drastically how you play the game. And yeah, that's it. This is the tiny tutorial. So let me hit play to show you a little bit more. So this is the play menu that I was talking earlier, right? Let me just take it out of the way. Okay, this is the play menu, right? You have up here your coins, your stored coins. These coins are very useful for the card shop and for the head shop. Actually, for buying guns as well, so you can buy new guns. For an example, every gun costs 250 coins. And here you have the revolver, which is the starting gun. You have the rifle, which is pretty much the same thing as the revolver, but a reskin. Like, I just made another sprite for the revolver and decided to add it into the game, just for fun. Actually, the rifle was in the original version of Soulslinger, but it was an Easter egg. You had to double-click on the Soulvolver to unlock the rifle. But it's just a reskin, right? It's nothing. There's nothing interesting here. It's just a resprite. But then you have the other Soul Blasters. The shotgun, which fires 4 scattered bullets. It's very useful to clear out stages. It helps clearing the stages very fast. Oh, sorry. The sniper, which shoots the exact same thing as the revolver, but if you hold it in your hands, it starts charging a bar. Once this bar is completely charged, it will shot a more powerful shot. and this shot will pierce through pretty much everything in the stage. So it's very useful against bosses, because it deals a lot of damage, and it helps to reach the boss, because it's very common to just fire a shot, and this bullet hit something in the way and don't reach the boss, right? So this is very useful to evade that, to actually overcome these obstacles. And the machine gun, which shoots 3 bullets consecutively. Which shoots 3 consecutive bullets, right? It's kind of a tiny machine gun, actually. So it's very useful because it multiplies your ammunition by 3, right? So instead of having just 6 ammo, you now have a total of 18. So you can use it a lot. And it's not affected by attack speed. This is very useful because there is actually a curse, which I'll explain a little bit later, that reduces the Soul Blaster attack speed. So this gun here is not affected by that. So it's very useful for various situations, pretty much for cleaning up stages, and if you don't like running out of ammos, like if you like to just shoot a lot without thinking, this is the gun for you, right? But yeah, you only start with the Soulvolver, which is the main gun. You have the sight, but the sight you cannot change. The sight does not have any other variations, like it's the same thing. You have characters. You can play from the start with normal Alice or Alice Classic. If you have played Soulful before, if you want to play with Alice Classic, or if you just think she's prettier, you can just choose her. Characters in Soulslinger don't have any difference between skins, right? They're just reskins. They're just skins that you can choose. And I actually decided to add Alice Classic here, because even though it doesn't make any sense with the lore of the game, I just decided to add it anyways as a reference to Soulful, and because some people actually told me that they liked a lot the character design of the character from Soulful, the main protagonist, the Alice from Soulful, so I decided to add it on Soulslinger for those people, specifically. So yeah, if you played Soulful and want to play Soulslinger, you can actually play with Alice Classic. And you have other 3 characters, right, that are locked. You have to unlock them. Okay, 2 of them are actually present right now. You can see in the hat shop and in the card shop. They're both shopkeepers. The hat shop is where you buy hats, right? Hats are just cosmetics as well. They're just smaller details that you can add on your character. And I find it very fun, actually. Just a little bit of character customization is very good. And this works as a kind of a lottery thing. Whenever you click here, you have to spend 50 coins to buy a hat. But you don't choose which hat do you want to have. Like, you get a random hat every time that you buy it. So it's kind of fun to just see what hat you get from buying this present, right? And this is the Hatter, okay? This is one of the unlockable characters. You can unlock her by completing all hats. By unlocking all hats, you unlock her as a playable character. And the card shop. This is the Witch, right? I actually added all the cards and the Witch character in the latest update. The Hatter was from the original version, and the Witch is actually from a newer version, right? Sorry, my avatar is in the way again. But yeah, this is the Witch. And these are the cards. Cards are pretty much blessings that you can get from the start of the game. Like, you can start a run with a extra blessing. So they're very useful. Each card costs 100 coins. And you have a total of 9 cards here, and a locked card down here. Here we have the difficulties, right? Easy, normal, and hard. I decided to add it because in Mario Moth, some people actually asked me if it wouldn't be better if I just added difficulties to the game. So I decided to just make it on Soulslinger. To be honest, I don't like it a lot. Like, I don't feel like it fits with this game. I think it was a mistake to add the difficulties, the different difficulties. But yeah, it's here. I'll not take it out since it's kinda useful. I bet that there's some people that like it, so I'll keep it. But it doesn't change a lot from one difficulty to another. Like, easy mode is just less enemy health and a little bit of less frequent spawn rates. Like, obstacles spawn a little less here on easy mode and a little more on hard mode, and enemies have more health on hard mode as well. So I like playing on normal, actually, because it's how I developed the game. So it's the most balanced difficulty. And here we have permadeath and checkpoint. Okay, so you can choose between one and another. Soulslinger was actually very inspired by roguelikes, by modern action roguelikes. And even though I don't consider Soulslinger a roguelike itself, it was kind of my intention to make it like a roguelike. A roguelike-like, you know? And the blessings actually show that, the power-ups and everything. And here we have permadeath as well, so if you fail a run, you have to start all over again, lose all your blessings, and start from scratch, right? But in this game you can actually choose between permadeath or checkpoint. If you choose checkpoint, it's free, you can just restart the level that you failed with everything that you have, and you'll be fine. So I like this option a lot. I like playing with checkpoint, since there's a lot of runs that are very satisfying to just get like a very specific synergy of blessings, and to get that again is not that easy, you have to have a lot of luck. So this is why I decided to add this option here, is for those people that don't like roguelikes and just want to play a game more casually. And here we have the start button, right? I'll show you a little bit of the first stage, and then I'll go back to talking about the development of the game, right? Okay, so this is the first stage. You can see the health bar, the ammunition, the gun that I'm using, the coins, blessing slots down here, progression bar, and pie slot. So yeah, in Soulslinger, different from Soulful, just surviving will not grant you anything. You have to break obstacles. So the more that you break, the faster that you progress, right? And using the Soulvolver actually helps you a lot through that, because it lets you aim at any direction. The sight only attacks forward, but the guns let you aim to whatever direction that you want. Right mouse button change between sight and gun. The wheel does that as well. And you see that I collected a pie, right? Pies drop from obstacles that you destroy, right? If you destroy an obstacle, it has a chance of dropping a pie. And you can see there's a lot of enemies around. They just spawn. And actually, ripping enemies in normal circumstances does not heal you. It just destroys them and they drop coins. So this is how you get coins, by defeating enemies. Some enemies take more hits from the sight to be defeated, to die. But every normal enemy actually dies with one shot of your gun, right? So it's very useful to use your gun against enemies. And there is a very little trick that I like to use, that I hit a tougher enemy like this one with the sight and quickly shoot him, so it will grant me ammunition as well. It's very useful for those enemies that have more health, like 3 points of health or even 4, there's some. Okay, so this is the boss. Okay, my avatar is in the way, but I'll show it later to you. And yeah, I'll just defeat this boss. Okay, it's gone. Okay. It drops health, right? You can heal yourself after defeating a boss. And here you can see that I got a blessing, right? The Bullet Reaper Blessing. Side attacks destroy small projectiles. So yeah, now with this blessing equipped, I can reap projectiles and will destroy them. But only one per side attack, right? And this is the world map, right? The world map is very interesting because here is where you choose your path, right? In Soulslinger, you can actually choose your path. It doesn't matter for the ending of the game. Whatever path that you take will always lead you to the same ending, but you can get different blessings or different power-ups from each path that you take. For an example, here I am at the Grimwoods, and the next level is actually the Pumpkin Meadows, right? You can see the theme here on the world map. But I have the Blessing Shrine and Curse Shrine that I can choose from, right? Curses are pretty much the same thing as blessings, but with a more powerful effect, but with a drawback. So for an example, there is a blessing that let me heal whenever I get coins, but it makes coins rarer, so not every enemy will drop coins, like a lot of times you just get nothing. Or another blessing that makes that turns the shots of the blasters into lasers, like into beams, and those beams actually pierce infinite, like they have infinite pierce, so it's very useful to hit everything, but it has a chance to consume double the ammunition, like 2 ammo for an example. And yeah, that's it. Those are the curses, right? More powerful blessings, but with a drawback. And blessings are just, in the majority of them, are actually just power-ups. Okay, so I'll choose the Curse Shrine, just to show you the curses a little bit, right? Here are 3 curses. You have 2 Curse Shrines in the entire world map, right? And you only have 4 curses in the entire game. So there's only 1 curse that's not appearing here. And in the next shrine, all the remaining curses will appear. So you always have the chance to choose from 2 curses, right? You always have the chance to have 2 curses that you like. This is a way that I decided to make. I decided to make this way because I really like when roguelikes or games in this style actually allows you to choose your items, choose your power-ups. So I made it in a way that you can actually choose your curses, right? So I personally like a lot the Slinger's Curse, which is the beam bullet, the curse that actually transforms your bullet into a beam, and I really like the Sentinel's Curse, right? That makes your shots have a chance to be stronger, but you have a chance to receive critical hits, right? So I like these 2 blessings together, these 2 curses. But, oh yeah, you can see I can only choose 1 curse. If I choose this, all of these 2 will disappear, and I'll continue playing the game with this one. But since there's another Curse Shrine later on, since there's only 4 curses in the entire game, it's 100% sure that this curse will appear again, so you can choose it as well. So I have the option to choose from 2 curses of 4. And they will always be the same curses. The only thing that I cannot choose, that I cannot control actually, is the order that they will appear. So yeah, here I had the luck that both of my curses, my favorite curses, actually appeared. But yeah, that's it, pretty much. These are the curses, right? I'll get the Slinger's Curse and go back to the world map. You can see that I can no longer select these two stages, since I already used one of the shrines. And the next thing that I have to do is just go to the Pumpkin Meadows. You see the little icons here, like the school thing, the demon school, is actually a curse shrine. The house is actually a shop, and the heart is a blessing shrine. Blessing shrines does not have any cost. You see, when I bought a curse, I actually lost half a heart. Because curses have prices, health prices. And shops have coin prices, right? I have to spend coins on the shops. But blessing shrines does not have any cost. You can just select one blessing or fully heal yourself for free. Here are the map controls. You can use the arrow keys, WASD, or enter space to confirm, or just use the mouse, right? And yeah, this is the world map, right? And here we have the second stage, the third stage, the fourth stage, and the fifth stage. And here is the final boss, right? So yeah, let me just show you a little bit of the curse that I got. Okay, this is the beam that I talked about earlier. Remember that this is because I actually have this curse here that I collected on the curse shrine. And you can see it just phases through every unbreakable obstacle and destroys every obstacle that is breakable in its way. So it's very useful, especially against bosses, again, for you to hit it without worrying, right? And since I'm here, let me show you the pie effects that I got. Okay, so this is the blueberry pie. There, if I'm not mistaken, 5 flavors of pies. 4 or 5, I don't remember exactly right now. But the blueberry actually grants you infinite ammunition for a while. Like I can just shoot and my ammunition will not drop. You can see that I already got another pie. The pumpkin pie actually grants me invincibility for a while. And yeah, that's it. It's a game about collecting power-ups and using them wisely, while breaking a lot of obstacles. Like, you have to break a lot of them. Okay, but I guess that's it. Menu. Okay. And yeah, the game speed, like Soulful, actually will increase, but in Soulslinger it increases a lot less frequently, right? In Soulful it can increase a lot, very fast, but in Soulslinger I kept it at a very reasonable speed, so you don't have all that chaotic gameplay, you know? You don't have that chaotic feeling of everything's just going so fast. One of the reasons that I chose to do that is actually because I was getting motion sickness from playing Soulslinger, and it's not good. I don't like motion sickness, so I just decided to cap the speed a little bit. And yeah, this is why I kept the speed. Prior to the latest update, the speed was always kept, right? It was always the same value. But since I updated the game, in the last update I actually made that the speed increases a little bit over time. So the game after the update is a little bit faster than the game prior to the update. Okay, so these are the stages, okay? This whole mess of a thing is the stages, right? So you have a lot of things happening at the same time, okay? Soulslinger is a kind of very complex game. I'm very proud of myself to being able to finish such project, because this was a wild ride, let me tell you. This game was very, very different to make, and I was just having fun. The majority of time I was just adding stuff because I wanted to. It's not a common game in that sense. Like Mario Morph, for an example, oh yeah, I knew that I wanted a shoot 'em up, I knew that I wanted a specific style of power up, but for Soulslinger, I just, nah, I will make it my way, I will make it whatever comes to my mind, and I just made it, right? It's fun doing it this way, but it's not good since the game actually went in a state of a development hell, let me use that term, because I was just adding stuff and not fixing old stuff. So it actually became a snowball of bugs and problems and issues, and the code of Soulslinger is actually a huge mess. So yeah, but it was very fun at the beginning, right? Later on, during the development, things start going down very fast. Mostly because of my mental health at the time. A lot of stuff was happening in my life, a lot of bad stuff was happening actually, and I was going through very tough times. But fortunately, I'm recovering right now. I'm getting better, and I'm actually starting to see the beauty in this game. So for a while, I thought that Soulslinger was not a good project. It's not worth of attention, like, you know, Soulslinger was not a good game, right? Because when I released it on Steam, it started getting negative reviews, and I was very, very sad about it. I was very frustrated because I worked on this game for over a year, pretty much a year. It was almost exactly a year. And I made it all alone, and seeing my personal project, my first true solo project, getting negative reviews was so bad, and my mental state at the time was not very good, and I was feeling very frustrated. So this is why I kinda don't like Soulslinger that much, because the development process of Soulslinger, even though it was kinda fun, it was very rough and very hard. Actually, Soulslinger got very, very close to not releasing, on being cancelled. I got very close on cancelling the Soulslinger development. So yeah, I just wanted to finish the game as soon as possible. In the end, I just decided, okay, no, I will finish this game. I'm not happy working in it anymore. And I released it the way that it was. I didn't fix anything. I haven't fixed any of the issues. I just decided, okay, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to release it anyway. And I just released it very, very poorly, to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you. Seeing now, I had to work on Soulslinger a lot more than I did, right? If I worked on at least 2 or 3 months more just fixing old stuff and polishing the game, things would have gotten a lot better, right? But since I was on the brink of just giving up on the entire project, I just decided to release it as soon as possible, and in the end, it actually made Soulslinger come to life, you know? Because if I did not release Soulslinger in that state, I would probably never have released Soulslinger. I would just give up on this game and never released it. So it's better, at least in my opinion, to release a product and then upgrade it over time. Like, it's not a bad thing that you released something incomplete, or that you released something that's not finished or polished. What matters is that you already released it. So now you have to work on it. Now you have motivation to work on it, right? Even the negative reviews that I receive, when they are not just negative reviews, when they actually have constructive criticism that Soulslinger received a lot, it actually gave me motivation, and I'm very grateful for those people. Even though they gave me negative reviews, I'm very grateful for their feedback, and it helps me a lot to improve my own work and myself as a person as well. So yeah, if you're watching this video and left a review on Soulslinger, thank you a lot, really, thank you. Any feedback is appreciated. I really like it, and if you want to just give me more feedback, you can comment down below or post a discussion thread on Steam, or even a review if you want to. But yeah, now I really like Soulslinger. Since the last update, I made it a lot better, okay? I added the more blasters, the more guns, right? And that just added a lot to the gameplay. The card system actually added a lot, even though it's just the same blessings. But the fact that you can start a run with a specific blessing is already huge, like it already changes a lot. And I fixed a lot of issues, a lot of bugs, primarily regarding blessings. The blessing system in this game is like a complete mess, okay? It was very hard to make it work at first, and it's very hard to just make it work right now. I had to rewrite it from scratch, okay? So it was not easy to make it work, but now it's working, I guess. I tested it a lot and didn't find any issues. But yeah, now it's pretty much complete. Soulslinger is not complete content-wise, since I want to add more stuff, and I'll show you a little bit of, not cut content, but work in progress content that I actually scrapped from these updates that I released earlier this year, to maybe one day release another update with those contents, right? I don't know when, I don't know if I'll ever do that, but yeah, know that maybe in the future Soulslinger will still receive updates, right? Maybe. And okay, so coming back to to the stages, right? This is the first stage, the Green Woods, okay? And since my avatar was in the way, let me show you, okay? This is the first boss of the game, right? A giant eyeball. You can see it's very similar to this enemy here, right? But bigger and stronger, right? So yeah, this is the first boss, a giant eyeball. You see, if you remember, if you actually watched the Marimoth video, you may remember that I talked about why the enemies have giant eyeballs. And I talked about Stone Souls, another project that I was working back in 2020. And in Soulslinger, it actually is kind of reminiscent from Stone Souls as well, because the bosses on Stone Souls also had giant eyes. So I decided to keep that from Stone Souls to Soulslinger as well, right? And made every boss have a giant eyeball, and it has actually an explanation lore-wise behind it, but it's just in my head, okay? The game does not explain anything to you, so it's pretty much just in my head. Maybe one day I'll make a comic book or just update the game with stories, something like that. But at the moment, all the lore of Soulslinger is just in my head, right? And it makes sense for those bosses have giant eyeballs, okay? Different from Marimoth, that is just something that I like from the aesthetic and everything. Soulslinger is not just for the aesthetic, it has an explanation behind it, right? And it actually kinda links to Stone Souls as well. So yeah, those games are kinda connected, not directly, but kinda indirectly connected, right? Oh yeah, so this is the first boss. Let me show you. This is the flying animation, right? Keep in mind that I made it all by myself, okay? So every animation, every sprite, pretty much everything that you see here is mine, okay? It's completely original. The character models that I was talking before, actually I made them myself, as I said before, and every enemy, every sprite, every sound, music, it's mine, okay? I made it. So this is why in the credits you just see my name. I'm actually very thankful to the people behind the Click Fusion and Sprite as well, because I use those tools a lot. You see, Click Fusion is my main development tool, and Sprite is my main sprite tool, right? And I'm very grateful to those people as well, but I kind of think about the project directly, so I made the game directly using their tools, and they actually allow me to just release something that I made using their software. So yeah, this is why it's just my name on the credits, but keep in mind that I'm very, very thankful to them. And actually, I'm very thankful to my brother, that helped me a lot. Even though he did not work directly on the project, he gave me a lot of feedback as well. And thanks to him, I actually found a lot of bugs. So yeah, he found a lot of bugs from me. So yeah, he's kind of my official playtester, you know. Okay, so yeah, I jumped to the next stage, but there's something that I want to show you in this stage as well. Okay, so at the very start of the development on Soulslinger, I had a plan on making the borders on the side of the screen as well. Remember when I said on the Mario Morph video that those borders are actually fake? Yeah, I decided that I wanted to add them in Soulslinger as well, so I just made them in Soulslinger, okay? Let me show you this. Okay, so... oh, sorry about that. This is not how you do it. Okay, let me see. Do that, this... okay, visible at start, right. Now let me play. Okay, let me show you. This is how the game looked like when I started developing it, right? It had those giant black borders. But yeah, contrary to Mario Morph, those borders don't have any reason to be here on Soulslinger. They actually just get in the way, you know? It's not a very good game to have these borders. So, like I said on the Mario Morph video that those borders are actually intentional game design, in Soulslinger they would be very bad game design, since it's a very wide game, gameplay-wise. Not just the screen itself, but gameplay-wise. So having those borders would just make things harder, make things worse, you know? So yeah, I removed those borders very early in development. Okay, keep in mind that Soulslinger was supposed to have those borders as well, okay? So if you don't like them on Mario Morph, you would absolutely hate it on Soulslinger, okay? Luckily, I actually thought about removing them and did that, so they no longer exist. And here on the stage you can see pretty much everything. Here are the spawners, the generators actually that create the obstacles. Here are the blessing text positions, right? So these rectangles here are just the positions of the text explaining what the blessings does, what each blessing do. And here is actually all the text from the blessings, right? You can see all the blessings here explaining what they do. You see, I'm actually trying to learn right now how to use text in Click Team Fusion, but I personally don't like using pre-made stuff on engines. Like any engine that I use, I like to learn how to make my own way. Okay, so a lot of stuff on Click Team, there is a pre-made option for me to use, but I don't use it, okay? I made it by myself, okay? I make it my way, so I can have more control over it. For an example, the screen transitions, the fade-ins and fade-outs, I actually made them myself. Click Team has an option to use that automatically, like pre-made, but I don't like it. I like making it my own way, so I have more control over it. And the same thing goes for text, but text is a little bit different because the way that I'm doing right now is really, really bad, okay? The reason why I did not translate Soulslinger to Brazilian Portuguese is because the amount of text that this game had, okay? This game have a lot of text, and it's going to take me so long to just do that, but not because translating is hard by itself, but because all the text, both in Mario Morph, Soulslinger, and Forest of Strays, are actually images, okay? They're drawn. I used a sprite to make those texts, so they're image files, you know? They're not text files. So this is very bad, since if I had to change the text, I have to remake the entire phrase, okay? In a sprite, right? It's not just typing, I have to draw them in a way. It's kind of a very quirky of way of making texts, and it's very bad, okay? For my next games, I want to use pre-made text, right? Not pre-made, but a automatic text, using fonts and everything, not just a image, right? So yeah, this is why the text on Soulslinger is all a mess, and it's a mess in Mario Morph and Forest of Strays as well. So I'm not good with text, and I'm trying to get better at it. So yeah. Here we have timers as well. it's something that I like to make, right? I like a lot to use timers based on animations on Click Team. It's just easier for me to control what happens. It's not very optimized, like it's not very good, but I like doing it anyway because it makes the process a little bit easier for me to control everything, you know? To keep everything more organized, like not just messy, but messy in my own way, you know, that I can find where everything is, where anything is, and I can just change it fairly easily. I don't know if it made sense, right? But yeah, just saying that my games are quirky because the way that I develop them is very quirky, you know, it's very strange. It's not very common. Okay, so here you can see all the particle effects that this game have. Mario Moth has like less than 10 particle effects. This game, Soulslinger, has all of these, and each stage has specific particle effects. You can see that during the stages, leaves fall from the ceiling and stuff like that. You can disable them in the options menu, actually. But I find them very beautiful, since it adds a lot to the atmosphere of the game. And every stage has a different particle that falls down. For an example, in this stage, since it's a forest, in a way, it actually are leaves. The second stage is more leaves, but autumn leaves, since it's a autumn theme level. The third stage is actually rain. The fourth stage, it has dust, very tiny particles of dust, since it's a manor, right? It's a ghost manor, it's a haunted manor. And in the last stage, actually, flowers fall from the sky, right? Those flowers make sense since it's a garden. The last stage is a garden, right? But I'll soon talk about that. Okay, so the second stage, right? This is the boss of the second stage. This is a giant spider. It's actually cut in half since you don't see. Since there's no need for it to be complete, right? You will never see the rest of the sprite. So I just made it like this, cut the legs right here, and this is actually supposed to be a spider of some sort. You know, I'm very inspired by those brown spiders that just raise their arms like that, you know, those very venomous spiders. I was inspired by those to make this boss here, which I call the pumpkin spider. It's actually just spider boss inside the game, but lore-wise, for world building again, I just call it the pumpkin spider since it lives in the pumpkin meadows and it's a giant spider that really likes pumpkins. And this boss, different from the first one, it comes from behind you. Remember on Mario Moth, when the squid boss actually comes from below you, it's pretty much the same thing, but on Soulslinger the boss comes from behind you. But this time I did not warn the player, right? Because in Mario Moth, you have to know that, okay, the boss is coming from down below. But in Soulslinger, I thought that would be a little bit better, a little bit more interesting, if the boss did not show itself beforehand. Like, there was no warning that the boss was coming from behind you, so then suddenly this guy appears from behind you. Oh yeah, and the second stage doesn't have anything different from the first one. It has some returning enemies, for an example the eyeball enemy that I showed you before, but with a different color palette, more fitting for this stage itself, and a resprite actually, with two things instead of just one. And this is actually a returning enemy from the previous stage, but now it has horns. And yeah, in Soulslinger I decided to do the same thing that I did in Mario Moth. Take enemies from previous stages and add them later. But this time, I decided to resprite them completely, not just change their color palette, but actually made visual differences between the previous version of them and the newer version of them, you know? So yeah, just for comparison, this is the eyeball enemy from the first stage, and this is the eyeball enemy from the second stage, right? And yeah, I keep doing that, adding enemies and changing their color palettes and sprites, respriting them completely, just for the newer stages. Okay, on to the third stage, right? This is the Gravestone Ruins. It's actually supposed to be a graveyard, in a way, with ruins and a kind of a brick wall around it. I imagined some sort of a maze, but since it's supposed to be a giant hallway, it cannot be a maze, so I just imagine two giant brick walls keeping together a graveyard inside it, right? Like containing a graveyard inside it. Kind of a castle with a graveyard. And this stage is very interesting because it's very reminiscent from the Soulful level. If you remember Soulful that I was talking earlier, the stage is very similar, right? And this was the idea, the first idea that I had for this stage is actually, okay, so I want to make Soulful stage in Soulslinger. But then in the end I kept changing stuff and adding more stuff, and in the end it just looks completely different. But the main idea was to make this stage the Soulful stage, right? And here's the boss of the third level, the third stage. He is the Lich boss, the Lich King, right? Okay, so I was talking about the giant eyeballs. Where are the giant eyeballs in this boss, right? It's not in the head. Okay, so this boss has two giant hands that have those eyeballs in them. This boss actually shoots lasers from the hands, so you have less space to dodge, and the main head, which is in the middle, keeps shooting projectiles at you, so you have to be very careful to dodge the lasers and the projectiles. But the hands can actually be defeated before the boss, so if you attack one hand, it eventually will die and it will explode, and the boss will take huge amounts of damage. So the main idea of this boss is actually damage the hands first, you know? Attack the head later. First kill the hands. The second boss comes from behind you, and the first boss actually has a energy ball attack that you can attack with your sight, and it will just return to himself, you know, like return to the sender thing. This stage has a different obstacle compared to the other ones, which is the explosive box, okay? But the explosive box is actually very interesting in this level, since if you shoot it, or if you hit it with your sight, or just if you collide with it, it will explode. So it will destroy everything around it. So it's very good for clearing path, you know, if you have a lot of enemies in a group together, and a explosive box, you can just shoot the explosive box and all of those enemies will disappear, you know? Oh yeah. So pretty much, each stage has kind of a unique gimmick to it. I tried to keep things interesting since Soulslinger is very repetitive, and sometimes can get even boring to play, right? So I decided to keep things a little bit more interesting and kinda different between one stage or another. But yeah. Next is the Ghost Manor, okay? This stage doesn't have any very different thing compared to the others, gameplay-wise, but visually it's very different, okay? So you have, first of all, the first particle effects, which are the dust that I talked earlier. You have the obstacles, which, for an example, the furniture, the obstacle 1 that you can actually destroy, it's not just a one sprite, it's actually a series of them. You have 4 variations. It can be a table, a chair look to the other side, and a crate, right? A box. And you have actually darkness in here. Let me just play a little bit of it so you can see, okay? See this circle around me? This is actually a light that I'm emitting. And you can see that a lot of obstacles spawn here. Oh yeah, but that's it. Okay. It has a kind of darkness effect to it, since it's inside a manor, right? And the boss of this stage is actually kind of interesting. It's reminiscent from, again, Stone Souls. In Stone Souls, you had a giant snake-like enemy, not enemy, but boss, which I call the Steel Dragon. The Steel Dragon was my favorite boss on Stone Souls, and I'm very excited to remake Stone Souls, because that boss would be amazing if I remake it today. With all the experience that I have today, I think that that boss would be so much fun to work, and see it working would be amazing. But I decided to add a little bit of its concept on Soulslinger as well. So the fourth boss is very similar to the Steel Dragon from Stone Souls, which is the Poltergeist, right? This little guy here, right? But this is just the head. Again, this is kind of a serpent boss, but kind of short as well, since it only has one body part, which is, this is the body part, right? And this is the tail, right? The tail of the boss. Let me see if I can take all of this stuff away and show you the boss itself, okay? So this is the complete boss, right? This here is the complete boss. Its weak spot is in its tail, right? When it spawns, when it comes to the stage, it just shows pretty much until here, right? But it has an attack pretty similar to the bird from Marimoth, that it crosses the entire stage, right? It goes from right to left and then teleports back to the right and stops, you know? So you have to be very careful with the middle of the stage with this boss. The center of the stage is very dangerous with this boss specifically. So yeah, then you can see the entire body, and if you hit the tail, most likely with a shot, because it's very hard to hit with your sight, you do a little bit more damage. So yeah, I like to aim on the tail whenever I have the chance. Then we have the last stage, which is the Soul Gardens. This stage is kinda special because it doesn't have a boss in it, right? Whenever you beat the stage, it just don't have a boss. It will just give you the blessing and a heart, so you can heal yourself. And after that, you go to the final boss, which is this giant dragon here. And here are the wings, right? The dragon wings. This boss, canonically, okay, again, world building, has a body, okay, but since you don't see it in the game, it doesn't make any sense for me to add it, right? Let me show you a little bit how it spawns, right? Oh yeah, keep in mind that I spawn up here because it's supposed to take the position from the previous stage to this one, but since I never played the previous stage, it doesn't know which position to place my character on, so it puts me on 0-0, which is the top left side of the screen. Okay, so this is the giant dragon, okay? So its wings are kind of in the background, and its head overlaps the stage itself. Now, this stage actually is very reminiscent from the Soulful stage as well. I decided to merge them together. You see that the crates are actually the same from Soulful, and you see the gravestones as well are the same from Soulful. So yeah, this is kinda the place where Soulful takes place, you know, this is the Soulful stage, but now canonically, because the third stage was just an idea, but here is pretty much canon, is for the story, right, for the lore. And this, in the lore, this is where Soulful takes place, okay? I know it's very different, but yeah, there are two different games, so that's why it's different. Okay, yeah, this is the boss. There is nothing interesting here, just a giant dragon, which it's the final boss. When you defeat it, you just beat the game, and that's it. There's nothing else in the end. You unlock a character by beating the boss, right? Which is the third character that I haven't talked about yet, which is the shopkeeper. Again, another shopkeeper, but this time it's not a hat or card shop. No, it's a shop that appears in the middle of the run, like during a run. that are the houses, you know? The houses on the map mark the shops, and the shopkeeper is unlocked after you defeat the final boss. So here's the world map, okay? This is just the world map that I showed you before, but with everything to make it work. Like all the blessing slots that you can have, the card slot, that since I did not have any equipped card, it simply did not appear. And the icon for each character, like the classic, the shopkeeper, the hatter, the witch, yeah. Again, we have the text here, the text for blessings. The blessing shrine, okay, I did not show you this, I just showed you the curse shrine, right? This is a blessing shrine, right? You can choose to heal yourself completely, or to choose one of these two blessings, okay? In the original version of Soulslinger, there were only one blessing and a full heal. But in the last update, I decided to add another blessing option. Since only one, it was not very good, and having more options of blessings actually give you more a reason to come to a blessing shrine, because curses are obviously better, so why would you choose a blessing shrine over a curse shrine, or why would you choose a shop over a blessing shrine, right? There's not much reason to come to blessing shrines, but now you have more options of blessings to choose from, so if you're looking for a specific blessing, maybe coming to a blessing shrine makes more sense in your run, okay? The background actually changes depending on the stage that this happens, okay? So this blessing shrine actually is in the first stage, so you can see the first stage background here. And this is the curse shrine that I showed you before. This is a blessing shrine in the second stage, right? So this is why the background is different. Oh yeah, are you seeing these kind of stone pillars on the sides? This is actually reminiscent from the black borders that I decided to remove. Actually, I made the shrines using the black borders, but when I removed them, I did not have anything to put here on sides, so I decided to just add those giant pillars. It looks kinda cool, I like it. This is the curse shrine on the third stage, right? Oh, you see the rain that I talked before? Yeah, all the rain drops falling. You see the wall and a kind of a thorns, viney things over the wall. This can actually be seen on the world map. If you look on the world map, you see that it got those things up here, those thorn spiky things. It's actually supposed to be a swamp of some sort, right? I had plans on adding more stages to Soulslinger, like a stage that would not be just a second stage, but a variation of the second stage that would come here, and here would be another place, like not just the Pumpkin Meadows, but another place similar to it, and then from this stage you would go to this stage here, which is the swamp, the Thorn Swamp, something like that. But I scrapped that idea since adding more stages would take so much time, because imagine, I would have to add more enemies for each stage, I would have to make more particles, backgrounds, everything. Make it on the world map would be such a hassle, because adding new stuff to the world map, the way that I made it, is not very good. So it takes a lot of time, so I decided to just scrap that idea. Maybe in the future I add new stages, but for the moment I don't have that plan anymore, okay? I don't like the idea of adding more stages to Soulslinger. But yeah, if I would ever add new stages to Soulslinger, one of them would be the Thorn Swamp, something like that. Or Thorn's Bog, or anything like that. Okay, and this is what I wanted to show you. The shop. Okay, so this is the shop that you can find playing the game, right? This is that tiny house on the world map. And in the shop you can actually buy a pie, a blessing, ammunition to fully recover your ammunition, and a health bar, right? A health blessing, actually. You can just refill your entire health, you can just recover your entire health here. So the shops are very useful, because you can always buy a blessing, a pie, and fully recover yourself, but it costs coins. And as I showed you before, coins have a use outside of the run as well. So if you want to unlock something outside of the run, it's not very wise to come to a shop because you have to spend those coins during the run, not just after the run. So yeah, this is why if you're just trying to reach the end, coming to the shop makes a lot of sense, but if you're trying to unlock something outside of the game itself, like a new hat, a new card blessing, or a new gun, it's not wise to come to a shop during a run. It's more wise to go to a blessing shrine or a curse shrine and not spend any money during the run, later saving it for after the run ends, you know? Yeah, but this is the shopkeeper, right? This is Alice, the shopkeeper. She's the only character besides Alice that has a name, right? And you unlock her as a playable character after finishing the game, right? After beating the final boss, the dragon. And she winks at you whenever you leave the shop. Okay, but imagine, right? I'm playing as Alice, since she's a unlockable character, I'm playing as her, and I decided to enter a shop. What happens? I just find another Alice here. It doesn't make any sense, right? Because she's playing the game, not taking care of the shop. And why would she even buy her own stuff, you know, when she could just take it? So I decided to add another shopkeeper, which is this fella here, this guy here. I imagine him being very grumpy, so this is why he's always with this sad face, bad face, you know, grumpy face, and he's always reading his newspaper, right? You can see on the newspaper that it has something that's very similar to Alice here. But this implies that Alice's actions, the gameplay of Soulslinger, actually moves the entire underworld, like it has a lot of impact over the entire underworld, right? Not just on a tiny portion of it, but in its entirety. So this is why it's in a newspaper, right? Because her arrival, or even the gameplay itself of Soulslinger, is very important to the underworld, right? Because if it's not being clear already, Soulslinger happens in the underworld, right? In a netherworld kind of place. The land of the dead, something like that. Not necessarily a hell, but more like a underworld, like a land of the dead. And this guy is very grumpy. He only appears in the shops when you play as Alice, right? And he's not unlockable, right? You cannot unlock him to play, since he's just a ghost, not a reaper. And if you leave, he just looks at you and, yeah, he's not very interested in anything that you're buying or in anything that you're doing. He's just, yeah, go away, leave me alone. Oh yeah, so here's the play menu, right? With everything to make the play menu works, okay? I already talked about the play menu, so I'll not spend too much time here. The Endless. Alright, okay. So the Endless mode is very interesting. It has a very interesting story. The Endless mode was an idea that I had from the very beginning of the game, right? When I started developing Soulslinger, at the very start of development, I already knew that I was going to make a Endless mode, because the Endless mode makes it a lot more similar to Soulful in a way. Since Soulful is an endless game, an arcade game, I decided to add this same game mode into Soulslinger as well. So in Soulslinger you have the story mode, which you go from each stage and fight the bosses until you reach the ending. And you have the Endless mode, which the Endless mode, you play infinite level, like you're always changing levels, and the level order is actually random and there's no bosses. If you get more than 8 blessings, you can keep getting new blessings, but they will take the place of older blessings, you know? So you can always be changing your run, depending on how far you go. So the Endless mode is pretty interesting, it is very fun, and especially very good for farming coins. Since you don't have shops, you don't have a specific challenge, it's just go as far as you can just farm a lot of coins here. So it's very useful if you're trying to buy anything. It's available from the very start of the game, okay, so you can always play on endless mode. If you don't like story mode, you can just play on endless. And here is the old endless mode, okay? Keep in mind that the endless mode was very different, okay? This is a very interesting story, because when I released Soulslinger, remember that I said that I really wanted to release this game as soon as possible. I didn't want to work too much on older stuff, on fixing older stuff, I just wanted to release the game as soon as possible. Yeah, this is the old endless mode, and it got very affected by this decision, because it was broken, okay? This endless mode is completely broken, and it was completely broken for over a year, okay? Keep that in mind, that I left the endless mode broken for over a year. And why it was broken, okay? Because it was too complex. You see, this is a one stage, okay? In Clicked Fusion, we use frames, right? Each frame is a stage, in a way. You see, every time that I click on these arrows and I just show you new stuff, is actually show you the next stuff, is actually going through frames, right? You see, here are all the frames in Soulslinger. And each level is a different frame. But for the endless mode, I decided that I wanted to make one giant frame with all stages in it. And it was a huge mistake. The reason that I did that was because it was easier to make using just one frame. You see, I could make a very smooth transition where you see the stage kind of merging with another, with the previous one, new stage merging with the previous one, and then you fully enter the new stage and keep going without any cuts, without stopping. But this came with a series of issues. For an example, it lags a lot. It was not very well optimized, so it will lag a lot. And not only lag, but the blessings were actually broken. So remember that I said earlier, if you get more than 8 blessings in the endless mode, you actually lose the first blessing that you got, and it gets replaced by the new one. Yeah, this did not happen here. What happened is that it was supposed to happen, but when you get that last blessing, it will just add it. It will not remove the previous one, it will just add a new one. So you could keep stacking blessings indefinitely, right? And this is bad, because when you have all blessings, the game don't know which blessing you will get, right? Because you already have all of them. And you cannot have repeated blessings, you can only have one of each blessing. So the game doesn't know what to do. So it just has a chance to crash the game or just spawn a invisible blessing, something like that is not very good. And another issue is that if you don't pick a blessing, okay, let me think, okay, let me see. Imagine that whenever a blessing spawns, you just don't pick it up, okay? I don't want this blessing, I'm not going to pick it, right? I'm not going to collect it, because I don't want it. And the blessing goes, and this stage continues, right? The next blessing should be a different blessing. Since you didn't want that old blessing, the game should choose another blessing, right? This was the idea. But when the new blessing spawns, it has two blessings in one. It has the previous blessing and the new blessing inside of it. And when you collect it, you actually collect two blessings at once. So it was a very annoying bug that I had to fix. And I fixed it, and I thought it was fixed, and then sometime later it just came back, and I was very frustrated and decided to leave it this way. So for over a year, these issues were happening in endless mode, right? But in the latest update, I fixed it. I actually sacrificed the smooth transitions between stages to a more brute transition between stages, but a more functional endless mode. It does not lag anymore, the blessings work all fine right now, it's pretty good, pretty simple, and it works perfectly. So yeah, the endless mode was actually harder than I expected. And adding new content to this one was a huge hassle, like it was too much work adding new stuff to this mode, so whenever I added a new obstacle to the stages, like for an example the exploding box, right? It was such a pain to just add it here, in comparison to the new endless mode, which it's very easy, it's very simple, it doesn't take all the time at all. yeah, it was a good change, and I'm very happy that I did that. Now endless mode works perfectly. So yeah, this is the hat shop. This is the witch shop, okay? The card shop, actually. This is the witch character that my avatar was actually hiding before, you know? This is the witch character, okay? And this character was added in the latest update, right? It was not from the start, I just added it later. And it has a secret. There is a hat that you can unlock by luck in the hat lottery that is a witch hat, right? If you unlock that hat and come to the card shop, the witch will also be using the witch hat. So it's a tiny little detail that I wanted to add, just for fun. I think it's very good, very interesting. And it looks very beautiful. I like her design with the witch hat. And yeah, here we have some cut content from the latest update, right? And there's a lot of cut content. There would be, I guess, if I would explain every cut content, there would be at least half an hour of video. Maybe I'll make a separate video just showing the cut content, the work in progress content, that I may or may not release it. But there's only two things that I want to talk about, which is the first one is the relics, okay? The relics in Soulslinger are actually called secret keys. They will change they will completely change how the game works, you know? Everything, okay? So these things here that are the keys, you see these tiny little orbs here, they actually will change everything in the gameplay. And if you have all four orbs, all four relics or keys, whatever, activated at once and you beat the game, you will not go to the final boss, you go to a secret final boss, right? Which is this guy here. Oh yeah, I already worked on the entire sprite. It's actually animated, but it's not implemented into the game yet. So it would be the next step, okay? Keep in mind that I made this like 6 months ago, so it's been a while since I don't work on Soulslinger, right? So I don't know when or if this will ever be in the game, but it's just something curious that I wanted to show you, that I think is very cool. Okay, so this is the ultimate final boss, okay? Just for comparison, this is the head of the final boss that is in the game right now, okay? This is the comparison of size, right? This guy here, this new boss, is actually so much bigger. And this space here, let me see, I already have it. And this is the size of the player compared to this monster. So this boss is huge, and the idea of this boss is that would be flying in the background and there will be no ground. You would be just running on the void, you know? In a very, very dark place. I imagine it's if I can ever make it the way that I imagine it, it's going to be such a cool battle. It's going to be so fun. So cool. But at the moment, I don't have any plans on just working on it very soon. I have other priorities at the moment. But if I ever update Soulslinger, this will be the true final boss of the game, right? Just a curiosity. There's a few things that I want to talk about before I wrap it up. First of all, the 4th stage. Remember the Ghost Manor? Oh yeah, the Ghost Manor actually got corrupted one day. I just woke up and wanted to just start working on Soulslinger, and then I said that the entire 4th stage was missing, because it got completely corrupted. So luckily, I had a backup, so I could just remake it from scratch, but not necessarily from scratch, since I had a backup to help me. Luckily, I had that backup. It was very outdated, to be honest, and it made it a little bit harder. If I had a more recent backup, it would have made things a little bit easier, but it was very sad, it was very shocking to just see an entire stage of my game gone, completely corrupted, disappeared. And until this day, I don't know why that happened. It's just something that happened. So if you ever work on any project, please make backups, right? And keep them updated. Because if it was not for this backup, I would have worked for an entire week, not just an entire day, fixing this problem, okay? Or most likely, I would just have had given up. I would just have gave up on Soulslinger. So yeah, keep backups, okay? I almost lost an entire stage for corrupting. Yeah. Another interesting thing that I want to talk about is the soundtrack, okay? So I had to learn how to compose music for the soundtrack of this game, okay? And it was not easy, right? I'm not a composer, I know pretty much nothing about music theory, but I had to study a little, and I spent, if I'm not mistaken, 3 months just making prototypes of music, just so I can make the soundtrack of this game. So if you don't like the soundtrack, that's why, okay? That's why the soundtrack is not very, very good and not fitting with the game. Actually, if I ever update Soulslinger again, it's in my plans to remake the entire soundtrack, right? Because I really don't like the way the soundtrack sounds right now. But yeah, in the end, even though I don't like it all that much, I'm very proud of myself for being able to finish such a project and make a soundtrack for my game knowing nothing about music theory. Yeah, my brother helped me a lot with this process because he helped me to learn music theory. All that I know is thanks to him. But yeah, this is why the soundtrack is very, very bad, because I made it. And I don't know pretty much nothing about music or composing or anything like that. It was fun, not gonna lie, and it's a activity that I really want to go back to. I really want to compose more musics, to get the hang of it and study it a lot more and learn how to make real music, but it actually takes a lot of time, so yeah, it's just a plan. But it was very fun making the music for Soulslinger and Soulful. It was very, very satisfying and interesting to learn new skills, It's very good to learn something new every now and then. Okay, and there's only one last thing that I want to talk before wrapping it up, right? Which is the similarities with Soulslinger and Alice in the Wonderland. Okay, so this is a very fun story, because I was making the game, right? And I created the character, the Alice, and decided, okay, it's going to happen in the underworld, a magical land of the dead, actually. Very morbid, but yeah, that's it. A magical land of the dead. And the main character named Alice, she's going to have to defeat a giant dragon to return home and everything like that, and she would find many friends along the way. The only friend that she would find is actually the shopkeeper, Elise the shopkeeper. But later on, I decided to add the header as well. And the reason I added the header is just because I noticed, okay, Alice in Wonderland is very similar to it, right? Like, not necessarily the dragon part, but the whole theme, like a girl named Alice falling to the underworld and having to escape it, or not necessarily the underworld, but a magical wonderland, something like that, and having to escape it. It was very similar, and it was just by accident. Maybe it was a subconscious inspiration, but it was not on purpose. But then, I bought the idea, okay? I decided, I'm gonna make it, and then I made the header, and pretty much created an entire lore behind it, and the final boss, in the game, it's called just Dragon Final Boss, but in my head, in the world, it's actually called Jabberwock, in a reference to Alice in Wonderland, the original poems, you know? So yeah, I guess that's it. Soulslinger development was very strange. I have a lot of regrets regarding Soulslinger, but the majority of them got fixed in the latest update that I released earlier this year. And there's a lot of things that I really wanted to change on Soulslinger, not just based on other people's feedback, but actually based on my own perception of the project. In the end, I'm very proud of Soulslinger since it was my first true solo project that I worked pretty much alone. And yeah, I'm very proud and I really like Soulslinger, even though the game did not end up being so fun as I initially thought it would be, but I really like it. It's one of my projects and it's definitely a very important part of my life. It's actually my most successful game at the moment. Not in positive reviews, but in sales. So I'm very happy with it. And I think that I'm on the right track. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, it means a lot to me. Just being able to talk about my projects and my games and how it was to make them. It's so fun. And so interesting to me, like remembering all the stuff and rethinking how the game works and everything is just so good, so fun. And I'll keep making videos like this. The next one is Forest of Strays. So yeah, I guess that's it. Thank you again for watching e até mais!